This video is brought to you by Squarespace. If you're in the need for an online store, website, or even if you just need a domain, make sure you do it with Squarespace. There's a link in the description to give you a little discount.
So there are some areas of sustainability that I personally actively avoid talking about, and you may have noticed some of them throughout my content, and one of them is food and the other one is skincare. And this is simply because I'm not an expert in any of those fields, and there are plenty of people out there to give you their expert advice in those fields. So why would I give it to you when I don't really know anything? So after a few years of trying to create the absolute perfect zero waste skincare routine and largely failing multiple times, mostly due to the lack of brands and products out there that are actually good for your skin and also less packaging. So in light of that, I decided we would turn to the god of skincare on YouTube himself and ask for his advice for some of the different things I've seen floating around the zero waste movement, YouTube videos, Instagram, all that kind of thing, the products that they use, and get his insight on if they're good for our skin or not. And before we go any further, like I said, disclaimer, I'm not an expert. These items are not going to be like the perfect item for everyone's skin. Everyone has different skin, different concerns, different things that we're trying to treat, but I just thought it would be fun to explore some of the most commonly used items and talk to HYRAM about them. So I do want to talk about a few more things, but before we get any further, if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's jump into some more information about sustainability and skincare.
No pressure. Ooh, she is expensive. It's not the worst thing. Oh, I would just buy everything.
So first up, what do we even need to be looking for when we're thinking about creating a sustainable, or for lack of a better word, zero waste skincare routine? And obviously the first thing that comes to mind is packaging. And with the rise of skincare becoming so popular within the last couple years, there is no short supply of plastic bottles, but there are some better options and choices that we can make. And I think it's only fitting that we go through the 3 R's in their order of importance and talk about how to prioritize these things. So number 1 is reduce. The whole idea with the first R of the 3 R's is reduce, which means to buy as few things as you need. Like I said, skincare has kind of taken over the YouTube sphere recently. It's having a moment similar to what makeup had, where people are learning and they're all excited and they're buying so many things that realistically, I guarantee you most of us are not working through all of those products that we get excited about and then we buy and then they kind of sit there and they go bad. The second R would be reuse. So that would be something that would be like refillable packaging. There are some brands that we're going to talk about today that offer take-back programs to reuse their packaging, and reusing and recycling are different. So the third R would be recycling, and recycling here would mean to choose items that are much more widely recyclable or easily recyclable. But certain materials like plastic are not as good to recycle as items like glass. Glass is recyclable indefinitely. Plastic is only recyclable a time or two, and much of it doesn't get recycled at all. So in the recyclable category, I wouldn't only consider what you can recycle in your home, but also what brands have take-back programs to recycle it themselves. Recently, Earth Heroes started taking their packaging back for their skincare, and they will recycle it through TerraCycle. So that's a really good option when you can't find, the perfect zero waste skincare routine. And then the last thing to keep in mind when it comes to recycling and packaging is also to choose formulas that are more concentrated. So in so many products you see today, not just skincare, but also cleaning, like 90% of these formulas is water. So if you can choose a solid product instead of a liquid product, that's going to reduce packaging and also reduce shipping emissions, because it costs a lot less emissions to ship a bar than it does to ship a bottle. Beyond packaging, something else we should take into consideration are ingredients. So here there are a few things that I know off the top of my head to recommend you avoid, and that is microplastics, ingredients that hurt our coral reefs, and other harsh ingredients that can be harmful to aquatic life in general. Let's try to avoid those things, and I'll leave a list below of all of those things that you should try to avoid, the specific ingredients. So with all of those things in mind, I tried to come up with 3 different products for the 7 steps that I would put into my personal skincare routine. These steps include cleanse 1, cleanse 2, toner, treatment, mask, moisturizer, and SPF. You can't forget the SPF or HYRAM will come for all of us.
Sunscreen.
It's the most important.
So speaking of HYRAM, let's get into the interview I did with him, where I brought all of the things that I know to be sustainable, because that's where my expertise lies, and he's going to tell us if they're good for our skin, because that's where his expertise lies. Let's do it. Thank you so much for joining me today, Hiram. Super excited to hear your feedback on some of these skincare items. First up, I wanted to introduce an item that is by this brand that uses food waste to make skincare, which I know can sound scary, and I'm sure to you may sound also intriguing. But the first item has not apricot like shells, but it does have apricot powder. So I wanted to see what you thought about that.
So, I mean, innovative, first of all, that they are, repurposing something. And the challenge when it comes to sustainability and skincare is always finding that balance of something that's going to be, good and effective and safe for your skin while also good for the planet. And it seems like a simple bridge, but it's actually quite complicated the majority of times. When it comes to exfoliating your face with a physical exfoliant, it's really important that it's like rounded on the sides to make sure that you're not accidentally pressing those shards deeper into your skin. And the problem with apricot is that it's very sharp and pointed all over the place and not even, which means as you continually press it into your skin, you're running the risk of like overly irritating and overly damaging your skin by pushing those shards deeper and deeper. So some could say that powder is a lot better than just the shells themselves on an ingredient list. Technically, I don't think there's too much of a differentiation between the two. It really comes down to the specific product that you're using and, more importantly, how often you're using it. Because realistically, I always say you shouldn't be using a scrub more than once a week. If you are using one once a week, it's still a little much, but I'm like, it's at such a low level of usage that you're probably not going to see too much irritation.
Well, as far as cleansing goes, the first cleanse, most of the time people talk about balms, oils, that sort of thing. And there's a lot of talk in the sustainability community about like what oil is and isn't okay to cleanse with. I think I kind of know your stance on this, but if we're talking 3 oils, like jojoba, olive oil, and coconut oil, as far as a first cleanse goes, which of those, if any, do you think is the best and or the worst?
It really depends. Coconut oil can be, and olive oil specifically, can be really beneficial for breaking up the makeup and dirt, but I would only recommend them if you have like really dry skin because they do have a potential of blocking pores in people with more oily skin. But jojoba oil, I personally would recommend just because it has so many benefits for the skin and works, in my opinion, well to do what the first cleanse should do without the potential pore clogging aspects.
So for the second cleanse, I've heard you talk a little bit about bars versus the new technology, obviously, that comes with like a liquid soap, but obviously liquid soaps often come with more packaging. So in the zero waste movement, obviously we want to minimize that. So I put 3 bars here that you can kind of pick and choose which one you think may be good or if any of them are good. But overall, your thoughts on cleansing bars and if there are any ones out there that are HYRAM approved.
No pressure.
Drunk Elephant has a cleansing bar. And then also CeraVe actually also has a cleansing bar. And then the other one I listed is by a brand that's quite popular in the zero waste movement called Meow Meow Tweet.
Typically with cleansing bars, you run the risk of bar soaps using derivatives of palm oil in high concentrations, which palm oil has a really iffy sustainability story and forced labor story, and it just runs a lot of risk, and it's hard to know if it's ethically sourced and sustainably sourced. The good thing about the Meow Meow tuna is that from what I can see, it has ingredients like olive oil, coconut oil, cocoa butter, sunflower seed oil, not ingredients that are derived from palm oil. So from a formulation standpoint, in terms of actual really good cleansing, I'm a little hesitant because the first 2 ingredients are known to be pore clogging if you're using it as a second cleanser. Out of the 3, I personally would recommend the CeraVe one. From what I can see within this one, it doesn't include ingredients like that are most commonly known for having the highest concentration of palm oil, and it's not going to overly strip your skin as much as a lot of bar soaps that I can see, and of course it's fragrance free and good for sensitive skin. So I personally would recommend that one just because it does include the proper cleansing agents as opposed to the Meow Meow Tweet, which, although I can see the good intent, and I love the good intent behind indie brands for sustainable, ingredients, it doesn't quite have the proper ingredients to deeply cleanse your skin, and I would think would more likely clog your pores.
It's what we're here for, to get the expertise rather than just what's sustainable, right?
the little I can provide.
Yeah. After we move out of the second cleanse, we move into toner, which is where the DIYs start to creep in and people start talking about different sort of DIY zero waste skincare. The oh so famous apple cider vinegar toner. How do we feel about this?
Apple cider vinegar is not specifically formulated for your skin. It's pretty acidic, so because of that, exposing your skin to it runs a lot of risk. Toner is one of those things that's not even necessary in a skincare routine. And on my channel, I always talk about skincare minimalism. Like, bring down the amount of products you need to use as much as possible so you're only using the basics. Cleansers were typically very, very harsh to use overly stripping ingredients that were just really strong for the skin and would completely throw off the pH, and a toner was necessary to balance that pH level. Now, today, the cleansing ingredients that we use are really gentle for the skin, do not massively throw off the pH level, but companies still love to sell you the idea of a toner. Overall, I just don't think it's necessary. Apple cider vinegar can have some slight exfoliation effects, but I just think the risk is too high for me to feel comfortable recommending it.
Yeah. There's actually, and I'm sure you know this, not that many brands out there doing zero waste per se on top of sustainable ingredients. It's actually quite a small space. But I did find one brand that I'm really interested to get your feedback on. And they make a serum bar. Give us some feedback on this brand called, I think it's like Do Mighty.
Ooh, she is expensive. Okay, awesome. It has chamomile, which is good for soothing the skin sensitivity. It has jojoba seed oil, hibiscus, it has licorice extract, amazing ingredient for the skin. The only things I don't like about it is that it does have blue tansy flower oil, which I will say is good for reducing redness, but can have some possible irritating side effects. And it has ylang-ylang, which is definitely out of all of them the most irritating. However, I have never seen formula like this where it's in a physical serum form, so automatically super innovative, really unique, and as long as the rest of your routine is, fragrance free, then I'd say you're probably fine. Definitely has a lot of good ingredients that I like.
That's probably the most interesting product of the whole thing I've put together.
Well, it's really cool. I like how it looks. It's really pretty.
So that is one example of something good for the treatment serum side of this. Ren Skincare has set themselves up with a goal to be zero waste by 2021, which is very exciting. I think they seem like a HYRAM approved type brand from what I know and what I could tell, but I'd love to hear what you think about them.
Automatically, I'm going to praise any brand for that, no matter how I feel about the formulations. A lot of their formulas do include fragrance and essential oils, which I'm not crazy about, but they do have a few standout products that I love. Specifically within the serum treatment category, their anti-redness serum.
I was going to say I'm literally using that one.
No way! Oh my gosh, yes, I've used that one for a while, and I just think what they're doing is amazing, and I hope they continue to launch more, products that have as little fragrance as possible, just so I can, continue to find new products from them that I love.
So you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think after treatments, people talk about masks. Is this the proper order?
If you're doing it in the order of skincare products that like how you should apply them, I always recommend doing like a mask first, either before your cleanser or right after your cleanser, depending on what type of mask it is.
Okay.
But regardless, masks aren't meant to be used every day, so it really doesn't matter too much what order you put it in.
Masks are definitely like the pinnacle of zero waste DIY skincare, from charcoal masks to avocado, banana, aloe vera. I would just love to get your feedback on maybe some of those ingredients and why they may or may not be a good idea for your skin.
Yeah, so when it comes to DIY, automatically you are running the risk of not knowing what concentrations of specific ingredients you should be mixing to achieve the best benefits with the least amount of irritation. But there are specific ingredients that I think are totally fine to use in DIY formulas. The main one being honey. Honey is incredible for the skin. It's naturally antibacterial, so you don't really run a high risk of bacteria, collecting within the formula. Also, oats are really beneficial for the skin for reducing redness and sensitivity. A lot of people think that DIY face masks are the only proper substitute to a sheet mask. I personally believe that good face masks come in like jars. One of my favorite ones is the I'm From Honey face mask. It's a really high quality jar that I repurpose. Sometimes getting a good DIY face mask can be really expensive as opposed to just buying a good jar $20 face mask that'll last you 75 uses, you know?
I think there's a lot of crossover between the zero waste movement and people who think that natural is always best.
Packaging and sourcing solutions that are sustainable, ethical. I think by combining those two industries and finding commonality between them as opposed to constantly fighting, I think that's really the solution for long-term sustainability instead of these two industries that are just constantly going back and forth and never really finding mutual solutions.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. So next step that I wanted to get your thoughts on is moisturizer, obviously. Actually, I know some of your favorites because I'm also a HYRAM skincare fan. You have to know this.
Thank you.
But I picked out two that are quite popular in the zero waste movement and want to get your thoughts on them. So the first one is a brand called Yay for Earth, and they use all natural ingredients. It's actually a brand started by a friend of mine, but it's gone huge. I think they're sold even at Urban Outfitters now.
Oh, wow.
So I'd love to get your thoughts on the ingredients and all that good stuff.
I would say this formula is definitely for someone who has dry skin because the beeswax and the olive oil, they're great for just kind of locking in the moisture. They're not great for someone who has like acne prone skin or maybe oily skin or any skin prone to breakouts. If these are the only 4 ingredients, I'd be nervous about the formula potentially going bad quickly just because it doesn't have any preservatives to make sure that the formula remains stable. So specifically for people who are noticing dry, flaky, a broken moisture barrier type of skin, this would be the product to go with. But I'm so happy to see that it's essential oil free. That is so rare to find in the zero waste community.
Yeah, for sure. So the other brand that I put on this list for HYRAM to kind of rank for us or look at the ingredients is a brand that I really love, but I don't personally use this face moisturizer. I use their hand lotion and their shampoo. They send you the packaging that you see, you use it, and then you send it back, and they reuse it. So it's not just a recycling system. It's actually a reuse system, which is great. So awesome. We want to know what you think about the ingredients.
Okay, so immediately looking at it, it has safflower seed oil, it has jojoba seed oil, shea butter, avocado oil, propanediol, all good for moisturizing the skin. And I'm also seeing that it's palm oil free. So propanediol, an ingredient commonly from palm oil. I'm guessing it's not from palm oil, which is good. The only thing I don't like about it has grapefruit oil, sweet orange oil, and lemon oil. Now, citrus essential oils are the most irritating of all the essential oils for the skin. And this is one thing that I am always struggling with on my channel is finding the balance between should I go for the most sustainable option or should I go for the most ingredient conscious option. That is one of the only, if the only brand I've ever found that like you send back your packaging and they repurpose it, which from a fulfillment standpoint is so difficult to do. And it's also aluminum based packaging, which is pretty much the most sustainable. If they were to launch fragrance free formulas, I would be all over it. And who knows, I may be able to find some formulas from them that are.
It seems that a lot of brands that are maybe doing a little bit better on the packaging side, I keep finding, have all this fragrance. At what point will we see them realize that the market is shifting and realizing that we don't need all of this fragrance to have a good product?
Fragrance is such a huge part of the consumer experience. I will say it's very hard to formulate skincare products that don't smell bad. A lot of times brands will want to make it fragrance free, but then when they actually smell the formula, they're like, oh, this doesn't smell good. And it's like, well, yeah, the ingredients that you're using have a natural aroma that's bad. I really do think the majority of the reason is companies are so fearful that consumers are not going to be interested in purchasing their products if it doesn't have a fragrance. And I think Gen Z is changing that. I really think that, a lot of younger people are saying, no, we care about what we put on our skin, that we're okay if it doesn't have this amazing fragrance and this amazing scent. And we're seeing more and more brands shift that way. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Face Theory?
I know that you've talked about them, and I think I've literally checked them out because you did.
Okay.
But I've never tried them out before.
Okay, I would highly recommend them. They're a brand that focuses on creating as reusable and as the most sustainable type and recyclable type of glass packaging that comes with like aluminum lids. They'll use like aluminum tubes, different things that can be recycled or repurposed really easily.
Obviously, having packaging that is easily recyclable and reusable is really good. Something that I personally feel is that we're not really going to recycle our way out of the current like waste problem that we're seeing. I think the solution is a new system.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you hit the nail on the head with difficulty. The barrier to entry for a small brand being able to do that is like next to impossible. So I agree. There needs to be more innovation.
It's not cheap to do those things as the system stands currently. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
After moisturizer, last and most important step. I know every single time HYRAM reacts to a skincare routine, if you don't include SPF, he's coming for you. So we need to find out what are some good, sustainably packaged, also reef safe, because I think even if you can't find a sustainably packaged sunscreen, you can always find one with better ingredients for the environment. But if we're looking at sustainable packaging, I have a few options for you to look at and tell me what you think of their ingredients list, and we can go from there.
In order to advertise yourself as having an SPF, you have to go through FDA approval. You have to go through pretty strict guidelines, and sometimes it can take years to get approval. So automatically there's a level of testing that for me is like, oh, I can rest easy. I can know that it's not someone necessarily just putting some ingredients in a jar and selling it. The white cast is, yes, it is an intense experience, but that's actually very popular in Hawaii where I live. It has ingredients like green tea, black tea, caffeine, hemp seed oil, just really, really good ingredients. I'm not familiar with the Meow Meow Tweet one, which love that it comes in aluminum packaging. If there's even a risk of it possibly bleaching coral reefs, I don't want to even touch it. Like, that's my stance on it, which is why I love zinc oxide. Plus, it's just the best. It's best for irritated skin. It protects so well. And so this one has 20% zinc oxide. It has an SPF 25. That's a little low. I typically start at SPF 30, but you know what? We can work with it. I love the packaging. I'm curious if you're familiar with the sunscreen, the Love Kinship probiotic sunscreen.
No, I don't know about it.
They use collected ocean trash to make their packaging materials.
Wow.
Which I love. Yeah. You can scan a QR code on the back to see where around the world the trash was collected from to make that specific product. They have moisturizer, they have cleanser, they have sunscreen, they have exfoliating, they have pimple spot treatment. Awesome brand.
I'll definitely check out that brand. Thank you so much for that, HYRAM.
Yeah,
that's what we're looking for, right? The bridge. We just crossed it, just like this.
Exactly.
Those are all of the products that I needed to get your reaction to today. You definitely gave us a lot of insight. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Of course.
And I'll have everything that HYRAM did approved, and if he recommends something that I didn't have, I'll have it all linked below. So obviously creating the perfect zero waste skincare routine is not the easiest or most accessible thing, but we are definitely seeing shifts in the market because of consumer demand. For instance, take Native deodorant. I've been buying Native deodorant for years because I really, really love their formula. It's the only one that's worked for me. It's not just me, right? It's all of us together have asked Native to please come up with a better packaging. They switched recently from plastic to recyclable and compostable paperboard. So definitely show love to the brands who are already taking those initiatives to be less packaging, more sustainable, etc. But also take the time to write to companies that you loved before you started this journey and encourage them to change their packaging too, because the whole idea of sustainability is to get everybody on board, not just you and me. The biggest thank you to HYRAM for helping me make this video and being our resident skincare specialist, to which I am not. And let me know what other experts in their fields I should have come on to this channel to give you guys advice on, and I'd love to hear it. So remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Bye, guys.
Like I said, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform, so you can look to them to build an online store, website, or even just if you need to purchase a domain. Squarespace makes setting up a website super easy because you don't need to learn coding. They already have some beautiful templates over there that you can customize to be exactly what you're looking for. Squarespace makes it easy to connect your social media and to also take advantage of their blogging tools. You can do email campaigns through Squarespace because it is an all-in-one platform, like I mentioned. With their 24-hour customer service and traffic insight tools, it makes it the easiest way to build a website on the internet today. So when you're ready to launch, head over to squarespace.com/Shelbizleee for 10% off of your first purchase.